Chapter 1. Happy Times. It was the best week of my life. Only 7 days, but 7 good days. And then the trouble began. But I'd like to tell you about the good days first. On Saturday, my father came home and told us about his new job.
You're looking at the new financial manager at the Eastern Trading Company. More money, a company car, and a driver,
he said, smiling at us. We were very happy to hear the news. My father worked very hard, day after day, week after week, year after year, to get this new and important job. When other employees arrived at the office in the morning, my father was already on his second cup of coffee. At night, only the cleaners saw my father leave. Even when he took a week's holiday, he had work with him. Nobody worked as hard as my father. Now, after 12 years of hard work, he was at the top. That evening, we held a little party at our home for our family and friends. They all came, happy to hear our good news. When the bad times came, they stopped visiting. But for that first week, everything was wonderful. Now, my father had his new job, my family and the family of Samira Al-Hussein agreed to meet. They were going to talk about a possible engagement. I liked Samira a lot. She had a wonderful smile and friendly eyes. Her father was a very rich and important man, but she was kind and friendly to everyone. My family agreed that she would be a good wife and mother. But did Samira's family think I could be a good husband for her? My mother and sister often met Samira and her family at weddings. My sister told me Samira could sing and dance better than any of the other girls. She also told me that my mother often talked to Samira's mother about me.
Kareem is a good son and very clever. He knows everything about computers. His teachers think that he's one of their best students. I'm sure Kareem will get a very good job after he finishes, and then he'll want to marry a nice girl.
My mother was right. I was working hard for my exams, but every Wednesday I left the university a little earlier than usual and drove past the place where Samira was a student. On Wednesdays, Samira finished early, and she waited for her family's driver outside the front building. I never stopped and talked to her in front of her friends, but I drove very slowly past them. Her friends laughed at me, but I wasn't angry with them. Samira smiled at me, and I felt happy. My parents met only once before their wedding, but I wanted to know Samira better. I got Samira's mobile phone number from my friend's sister, and we often talked and sent text messages to each other. She was funny and clever. The more I talked to Samira, the more I liked her. But did she like me as much as I liked her? I wasn't sure. The evening before an important exam, she sent me a text message. I opened it. There was a picture of a heart. It made me feel hopeful. Now I needed good exam results. 2 days after my father started his new job, I got them. I had the best exam results in the university. It was time to ask. I told my father that I wanted to get married. He called my mother to tell her the news, but she already knew.
Your son wants to get married. He wants to marry Samira Al-Hussein.
I could never surprise my mother, but she often surprised me. She has always known what I wanted and tried to get it for me. My father was not sure.
Samira's a very nice girl, but she comes from a rich family. Her father is Minister of Telecommunications. Perhaps her family won't agree,
He said. I know, Father, but you have an important job, and now I have my exam results, I can get a good job too. I know Samira's mother likes my mother very much, and I think that Samira likes me, I said, suddenly looking down at my feet.
I think she likes you too,
My mother said, smiling.
Her mother asks questions about you every time we meet.
My father was still not sure.
Why do you want this girl? She comes from a really important family, you know. There are lots of other nice girls from good families.
But I don't want another girl. I want to marry Samira. She's beautiful, clever, and kind. There's no other girl that I want to marry, I said. By the end of the evening, with my mother's help, my father agreed to meet with Samira's family. 2 days later, my parents went to see Samira's parents. They were both wearing their best clothes, and my mother was wearing her best jewellery. The driver arrived in the new company car, and at 7:15, they left the house. I phoned Samira at once. She knew all about the meeting.
I talked to my mother about you.
She laughed.
I talked and talked and talked. I told her all about you. Of course, she knows your family, and she thinks that your parents are nice. I asked her to talk to my father about you. I'm sure that my mother will agree to the engagement, but I'm not sure about my father.
Samira had 2 older married sisters and 2 younger brothers. But Samira was her father's favourite child. He wanted her to marry a rich man, a man from an important family like himself. I tried to sound happy, but I was worried. It was the longest 3 hours of my life. Luckily, Samira phoned me from time to time with news about the meeting. She was listening in the next room, her ear against the door. She could hear most of what our parents were saying.
My father asked your father about his new job, and now they're talking about your exam results. My father thinks that you're very clever. Now they're talking about what job you could take.
At 9:05, she phoned me again.
It's going very well. They're laughing. I think that they're talking about me, but I can't hear what they're saying.
10 minutes later, another phone call.
Everything is okay. Your parents are leaving. My father said yes. There will be an announcement about our engagement on Saturday, and we can get married after I finish university. Oh, I must go. I can hear my mother calling me.
But Saturday came, and there was no announcement. The day after the meeting with Samira's parents, my father told us that he was travelling to Dubai the next morning. We were surprised. There was nothing strange about travelling to Dubai, but on a Friday. During the week, he was very busy. But on Fridays, he liked to stay at home with his family. My father explained that he had some important business for the owner of his company, Sheikh Ahmed bin Salem. He had to go tomorrow. My father often travelled to Dubai these days. Sheikh bin Salem had another company there. My father usually went there for him. Sometimes he went to other places and met other people. Sheikh bin Salem trusted my father. He trusted him more than any of his other employees. The next morning, my father was ready at 10 to 6. 10 minutes later, his driver arrived. My father finished his coffee, said goodbye, and left. It was a long journey. Many people like to stay one night in Dubai and travel home the next day. But not my father. He doesn't like hotels. He prefers travelling all day and arriving home late at night. Just before lunch, father phoned. My mother was busy in the kitchen, so I answered the phone. My father told me that they were already in Dubai. He said that he didn't have much to do there. He would be home between 9 and 10 o'clock that evening. 10 o'clock came and went. At first, we weren't worried. Perhaps there was a lot of traffic on the roads. At 11 o'clock, my mother said to us,
"Your father's very late. I'm surprised he hasn't called. I think I'll phone him and find out what the problem is."
5 minutes later, she came back into the room, looking worried.
"There's no answer. His phone is off."
"Perhaps he forgot to charge it,"
said Amira, my sister.
"But why is he so late?" "I'll wait until midnight. If he's still not home, I'll phone the police,"
said my mother. 11:30, and no sound of a car. 11:45, nothing. At 11:55, my mother couldn't wait any longer.
"There's something wrong. I know it. He's never this late."
She looked at me.
"Go and ring the police, Kareem. Perhaps there's been a car accident."
She turned to one of my younger brothers.
"Ibrahim, phone your uncle in Dubai. Tell him your father isn't home yet. Ask him to phone the hospitals there."
She told my sister Amira to look for our father's address book. She wanted to speak to the driver's family. We phoned many people that night. We found the driver's phone number and spoke to the driver's family. They knew nothing. They were also very worried. They had family in Dubai too, and they phoned them. Their family also phoned the police and the hospitals. But there was no news about my father or the driver. The next day, my mother phoned Samira's mother. We could not make an announcement about the engagement until we found my father. It was not right. Samira's family agreed. Her father said he would help us to find him. He knew many people here and in Dubai. So, we waited and waited. But there was no news. My mother sat next to the phone all day. She didn't eat. She slept for only 3 or 4 hours that night. Early next morning, I found her next to the phone again, sitting and waiting. She looked so worried. Then, around lunchtime, there was a phone call. It was someone who knew Samira's father. He was phoning from Dubai. He had good news. We thought that it was good news because he told us my father was alive.
Where is he?
Asked my mother. We couldn't hear what the man was saying, but my mother looked surprised.
What's he doing there? Has there been an accident? Did the driver hit someone?
She asked. My mother listened, nodding her head from time to time. At the end of the call, she put the phone down and looked at us.
Your father's alive,
She told us.
Thank God he's alive.
Where is he? What's happened?
Asked Ibrahim.
He's at a police station. I don't know what's happened. There's some kind of a problem. He didn't have a car accident, but the police want to ask him questions. I'm going to phone your uncle and ask him to go to the police station now. He can phone us when he knows more,
Said my mother. 2 hours later, there was another phone call. My mother listened for a long time. She looked very worried. What's the matter, Mother? What's happened? I asked.
I don't understand. The police think that your father's a thief. They say that he stole jewellery from Sheikh bin Salem's wife.
Father's not a thief. How can they say this?
Said Amira. It must be a mistake, I said.
What's going to happen now?
Asked Ibrahim.
Your uncle has spoken to Sheikh bin Salem. He's driving to Dubai. He'll be there in a few hours. He'll talk to the police. Your uncle's waiting at the police station. I'm sure everything will be fine,
Said Mother, putting her arm around Amira. We sat by the phone all day, waiting for a call from my uncle. Hour after hour we waited. Suddenly, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone rang. 4 hands shot out. My mother was the quickest. She put the phone to her ear. At first, she said nothing. From time to time, she nodded her head. She put the phone down and looked at us.
The driver has already left the police station, but the police still think that your father stole the jewellery. They think that he was trying to sell it to a man in Dubai. They want to put your father in prison. Sheikh bin Salem has been at the police station all day. He told them that he doesn't want your father to go to prison. He told them that he loves your father like a brother. Thank God for that,
She cried.
So what's going to happen?
Asked Ibrahim.
The police have got most of the jewellery. They haven't got his wife's diamond necklace or her ruby earrings. But Sheikh bin Salem doesn't want your father to go to prison.
So when's father coming home? I asked.
In a day or two, I think. The police want to ask him some questions first. They want the rest of the jewellery.
The house felt strange without my father. Each time we heard a car, we ran to the front door. It wasn't him. Then, 2 days later, a taxi arrived in front of the house. My father got out of the car. He looked older, thinner. His head was down. We ran to him and put our arms around him as the car drove away. We went into the house. My parents went into my father's office and closed the door. Even with the door closed, we could hear my mother crying. We couldn't hear what my father was saying. His voice was very quiet. The door opened, and my father called us.
Please come in. I want to speak to you all.
Chapter 3. Father's Story. My father was standing near the window. My mother was sitting in a chair, looking at him. My father spoke to us first.
I'll say this only once. I am not a thief. I don't know who stole the jewellery, but it wasn't me.
Of course your father isn't a thief, but people will talk. You must be strong and not listen to them,
said my mother.
What happened, Father? Why do the police think that you stole the jewellery?
Asked Amira.
About 2 weeks ago, somebody stole a watch, a necklace, some earrings and 2 rings from Sheikh bin Salem's house. They were very expensive. The police asked Sheikh bin Salem and his wife to give them the names of all their visitors. They have a lot of visitors. I've been a visitor there many times, as you know. They gave my name, but the police didn't ask me any questions. Nobody thought that I was a thief.
So why do they think that you are a thief now? I asked.
Because some of the jewellery was in the parcel I took to Dubai.
He smiled at our surprised faces, but it wasn't a happy smile.
Of course, I didn't know what was in the parcel. The parcel was on my desk at work the evening before I went to Dubai. There was a typed note from Sheikh bin Salem's secretary. Well, I thought that it was from his secretary. The note asked me to take the parcel to Dubai the next morning. I didn't open the parcel. I never do. The note said that there were important papers for Sheikh bin Salem's family inside the parcel. I have taken important papers for him many times before. He trusts me more than anyone. Or he did,
he said sadly. Did you show the note to the police? I asked.
Of course, but the secretary said that he didn't type the note, and Sheikh bin Salem said that he didn't ask the secretary to type it.
Who do you think typed it, Father?
Asked Mohammed, my 12-year-old brother.
I don't know. The police think that I typed it myself.
Where did you take the parcel?
Asked Amira.
The note asked me to take it to an address in Dubai, to the brother of Sheikh bin Salem's wife in Dubai. When I got there, I went into the house. I met a tall man there. I thought that he was the brother. We drank coffee, we talked for a few minutes, and I gave him the parcel. Then I left.
Wasn't he her brother?
Asked Ibrahim.
No. Later, much later, the police told me that he buys and sells stolen jewellery. They were already watching him. Then they saw me arrive, get out of the car with the parcel, and go into his house. When I left, they arrested me, the driver, and the tall man.
What did the tall man say? I asked.
He said that someone phoned him. A man told him that he was bringing some expensive jewellery to his house. He didn't know the man's name. Perhaps it was me, or perhaps it was another man. He wasn't sure.
What happened at the police station?
Ibrahim asked.
They put me in a room and left me. Nobody spoke to me. Nobody told me anything. Then, after about 2 hours, a policeman came into the room, an important policeman. I told him that there was a mistake, but he just laughed. I explained that it wasn't my parcel. I was just taking it to that address. He became angry. He started shouting. He told me that I would stay at the police station until he heard the truth.
Were you afraid?
Asked Mohammed. My father smiled.
No, but I was worried about you. You were waiting for me to come home.
What happened next, Father?
Asked Amira.
Another policeman came into the room about 2 hours later. He took me to an office, the office of the important policeman. He asked me more questions. He knew everything about me. My job, my address, your schools and university. He even knew about your engagement, Karim.
But there has been no announcement yet, I said.
I know. He had a lot of information.
He looked at my mother and I.
Have you spoken to Samira and her family yet?
Her mother phoned 2 days ago. She was worried about you. I told her that you would be home soon and that everything would be fine. I haven't spoken to her since then.
My mother said. I spoke to Samira yesterday. She told me that it must be a mistake. She said that nobody would believe it. I said.
She's a nice girl, but still young. She doesn't know people very well.
My father said.
Go on with the story, Father,
said Mohammed.
You know the rest of the story. Your uncle came to the police station and phoned Sheikh bin Salim. The police wanted to send me to prison for taking the jewels, but Sheikh bin Salim was against it. I've worked for him for a long time. He said to the police that perhaps my story was true. In the end, the police said that I could leave.
What are you going to do now?
Asked Ibrahim.
I want to forget these last few days. I want to go back to work. I want to do what I usually do, but I don't think that I can. Sheikh bin Salim told me to take a long holiday. He wants to give people time. He wants to give them time to forget all this. I don't think that they will forget it. But Sheikh bin Salim has been very good to me, so I must agree to his plans.
One day the police will catch the real thief, and then we can forget all about this,
said my mother.
Now, please, children, leave me alone. I'm feeling very tired,
said my father. We all left the room. Catch the real thief? Were the police even looking? I turned around and opened the door again. My father was sitting on the chair. His head was in his hands. Chapter 4. A Quiet House. Life was bad. The next day, it was worse. Samira's father phoned. He wanted to speak to my father. I looked at my father while he took the call. After a minute or two, he put his hand over the phone and turned to me. He asked me to leave the room. 10 minutes later, he called me back and told me the bad news.
I'm very sorry, my son. When they arrested me, I thought about your engagement. I was afraid of this. Samira's father has just phoned. He said that his plans have changed. He said that he thinks Samira is too young. I'm so sorry. I've done nothing wrong, and neither have you, but that's not important now.
Samira's father knows that you're a good man. How can he do this to you? To our family? It's not right, I said angrily.
We know that I'm not a thief, and I think that he knows that too. But he's thinking about his daughter. How can he agree to this engagement now? Nobody wants to know a thief, or the family of a thief. He doesn't want his daughter to marry into a family that nobody wants to know. You'll see, he won't be the only one to think that way.
My father was right. We usually had a lot of visitors. My mother's family and friends, our friends, my father's family, friends and business colleagues. There was always someone in the house. Now, the house was empty. Nobody came to visit. Nobody came for dinner or for coffee. I spoke to my friends on the phone, but strangely, they were always busy. Amira and Ibrahim said the same. Luckily, it was the summer. There was no school for my youngest brother. We were happy about that. We didn't want him to hear bad things about his father from the other children. But Mohammed wasn't happy. He was bored. He didn't have anyone to play with. He stayed in his bedroom and played on his computer. He only left his room to eat, and to tell us that he was bored. We didn't see much of my father either. He lived in his own world. Day after day, he sat in his office, seeing nobody, talking to nobody. He stopped eating with us, so my mother took food to him. He ate very little. My mother didn't say anything to me, but I knew that she was very worried about him and the family. Sometimes, at night, when she thought that we were all in bed, I could hear her downstairs crying. Not everyone stopped calling. The day after Samira's father phoned, I had a phone call from Samira.
I'm so sorry.
She said. She was crying.
I don't want to end our engagement, but my father won't listen. I told my father that there has been a terrible mistake. I know that your father isn't a thief, and I'm sure that my father knows that too. But he says it's not important what he or I think. He told me that he spoke to your father.
Yes, he did, I said quietly.
One day the police will catch the real thief and everyone will be sorry.
She said. I'll never forget your trust in my family. I said quietly. Thank you.
Perhaps we can help my father change his plans again.
She went on, and she wasn't crying now.
We must find the real thief. Your father didn't take the jewellery, so we must find the person who did.
She made it sound so easy. But how are we going to do that? I asked.
Let's think. Sheikh bin Salem says that he didn't leave the parcel. He says that he didn't ask his secretary to type it. Perhaps he didn't ask him to type it, but perhaps he left the parcel.
What do you mean? I asked.
Perhaps he typed the note himself. Perhaps he stole his wife's jewellery.
I was shocked at her words. I know you want to help my father, but Sheikh bin Salem isn't a thief, I said.
Why not? He can sell the jewellery and get money from the insurance company at the same time. Then he can buy his wife new jewellery and have the rest of the money for himself.
He doesn't need to do that. He's a very rich man.
Perhaps he is, perhaps he isn't. How do we know? Perhaps he has money problems. Perhaps he just thinks it is exciting to be a thief. I don't know why he did it, but we have to find out more about him and everyone who went into your father's office on that day,
she said. I didn't think she was right about Sheikh bin Salem, but I wanted to do something. So I agreed. Okay, let's try, I said. The first thing I can do is to talk to Abu Malik. He makes the coffee and tea at the Eastern Trading Company. He sees everybody who goes in and out of the building. Perhaps he can remember who came in and out of the building that day.
Good. When you get the information, phone me. I'm sure that we can find the real thief,
she said. The next day, I went early to the Eastern Trading Company to speak to Abu Malik. I waited outside the building. About 10 minutes later, I saw him walking down the street. He was angry about what people were saying, he told me. He liked my father.
People say that he's a thief. They're wrong. Your father's a good man. When my wife was sick, he helped me. He gave me money to buy her what she needed. He's a kind man.
Thank you, I said. My father needs help now. He travelled to Dubai last Friday. I need to know what happened the day before he went. Who went to my father's office? Can you remember? I asked.
Let me think for a while,
he said.
Last Thursday.
He thought for a moment.
Yes, now I remember. I went into your father's office 4 or 5 times to take him a cup of coffee. I do that every day. His colleague, Mr. Nasser, came in while I was there. He doesn't drink coffee in the mornings. He prefers tea.
What time was this? I asked.
I think it was about 10 o'clock. He was in the office for about an hour, I think. He left, and about 5 minutes later, Mr. Musa went in. I took them both coffee. He was in there for about half an hour. Your father left for lunch around 2 o'clock, as usual. All the other employees left then too. Your father came back about 4 o'clock. Oh yes, he had 2 visitors in the afternoon. They arrived just after your father. I took them coffee. I don't know who they were, but they were from Jordan. They stayed for about an hour.
Were there any other visitors? I asked.
No, only Sheikh bin Salem, but he's not a visitor. He came to the office in the evening. He usually comes around 6 or 7 o'clock. He spoke to your father, but he didn't go to your father's office. Your father always goes to Sheikh bin Salem's office. Your father was carrying a lot of papers with him. I took them coffee and then closed the door. It was a long meeting. About 2 hours later, your father opened the door and asked me to bring 2 cups of coffee. They were laughing about something.
Who left the building first? Sheikh bin Salem or my father? I asked.
Sheikh bin Salem. I think he left about 8:30. All the other employees left between 8 and 9 o'clock. After 9, the only people in the building were your father and I. Oh, yes, the cleaners were there too, and the security guard was outside as usual.
What time did my father leave? I asked.
Wait, now I remember. The son of Sheikh bin Salem. He was here too. He arrived just after 9. He was looking for his father. I told him that Sheikh bin Salem wasn't here. He asked me for coffee. I made it and took it to his father's office. He left about 10 minutes later.
Did he go to my father's office?
I didn't see him go in. No, he didn't. I saw your father later. He didn't know about Omar's visit. He was surprised. We don't usually see Omar. His father wanted him to work here, but Omar has his own business. His father was angry, but Omar has never listened to his father, or anyone. Omar likes to do things his way.
I thanked Abu Malik for his help and left the building. As soon as I got into my car, I phoned Samira and told her everything.
It can't be Mr. Nasser or Mr. Musa or any of the other employees,
She said.
Your father said that he found the parcel just before he left. So there are only 4 suspects on our list. Sheikh bin Salem, his son, Abu Malik, or the cleaners.
I was shocked. Samira, I said, I think that you are wrong about Sheikh bin Salem. The thief's not him or his son. And Abu Malik's a very honest man. Perhaps the cleaners did it, or someone that Abu Malik didn't see.
Perhaps you're right, but let's begin with our 4 suspects. I must go now. We have visitors. Let's think about what we're going to do next. I'll call you tomorrow,
She said. Chapter 5. More questions. I was having breakfast when my phone rang. It was Samira. I left the room. I didn't want the rest of my family to hear me.
I've thought about this all night. I think that you're right about Abu Malik. Perhaps he put the parcel on your father's desk. But how could he get the jewellery from Sheikh bin Salem's house? What about the cleaners? Perhaps they work in Sheikh bin Salem's company and in his house too. Perhaps they stole the jewellery and put it on your father's desk. We must find out.
Okay, that's easy. I'll ask my father.
And we must find out if Sheikh bin Salem or his son needs money. You can ask your father about Sheikh bin Salem's business. I can ask my father about Omar. My father knows everybody who works in the internet business.
Even if we know who did it, I don't know how we can prove it to the police, I said.
I don't know how we'll do it, but we must try,
said Samira. That evening, I knocked on the door of my father's office and went in. My father was sitting behind his desk, looking out of the window. He looked very sad. Father, I must speak to you. Who cleans your office?
What a strange question. Why do you want to know?
We know that you didn't take the jewellery. Perhaps the cleaners took it from Sheikh bin Salem's house and brought it to the office.
We have 2 men from Pakistan to clean the office. They've been working there for about 3 years. I think that they're honest. They've never taken anything before, not even a pencil. They don't clean Sheikh bin Salim's house. He has 2 maids from the Philippines at home. They're sisters, and they have worked for him for many years. Of course, the police have been into their room and looked through all their things carefully, but they found nothing.
I have another question. Do you think Sheikh bin Salim needs money? Is the Eastern Trading Company doing well?
Last year was difficult for the company, but not this year. Last year, we bought a lot of new computers, and we opened a new office in Dubai. It was an expensive year for Sheikh bin Salim. His son Omar started his internet business, and he had to give him a lot of money. But this year is very good. We've got a lot of business, and I think we'll get more. It'll be a good year for the company.
What about Omar? How is his business doing?
I'm not sure. I asked Sheikh bin Salim about it a few weeks ago, but he told me not to ask him. He said that he didn't want to talk about Omar or what he's doing. He looked angry. You know that Sheikh bin Salim wanted Omar to work with him, but Omar wanted to set up this internet business. They had many arguments, but Sheikh bin Salim gave him the money in the end.
Interesting, I said.
Omar doesn't always listen to his parents, but that doesn't mean he stole from them. He comes from a good family. He's not a thief.
I didn't say anything, but suddenly I wasn't so sure anymore. After I left the room, I phoned Samira.
I think that we can take the cleaners off our list of suspects for now.
She agreed.
Like Abu Malik, it's easy for them to go into your father's office, but difficult for them to get the jewellery. I've got interesting news about Omar too. My father says that there are a lot of companies in the internet business now. It's not like before. And Omar's spending a lot of money. My father thinks that Omar's spending more than he's making.
So, Omar stays on our list. But if he's the thief, how can we prove it? I asked.
Let's think. The police said that not all the jewellery was in the parcel. They're still looking for the rest of it. If Omar's the thief, the jewellery must be with him, in his house or car or office. We must find it. Then we can prove that he's the thief and not your father.
It could be anywhere. Perhaps he's thrown it away, I said.
I don't think so. He still needs money, and I don't think that he's worried about your father or the police. Remember, he stole from his parents.
Well, we're not sure about that, I said. Samira wasn't listening.
I don't think that it's in his house.
She went on.
It's too dangerous. Someone might find it. Perhaps he took it to his office.
It's a good place to begin. I must get into his office and look around, I said.
How are you going to do that?
I can go in the evening, after all the employees have left. Who goes into offices and companies in the evening without problems? I asked.
The police.
Cleaners. Perhaps I can disguise myself as a cleaner and get into his office. But I don't want the real cleaners to be there.
I know,
said Samira.
My sister wants some men to work in her garden. She wants to build a small house for the children. I'll send my driver to find the cleaners. I'll pay them a lot of money, but they must work in the evening. We'll tell them that we don't want the children to see the house until it's ready.
Later that day, she phoned me again.
My driver found the cleaners. Everything is okay for tomorrow.
Wonderful. I think I'll ask my brother Ibrahim to come with me. We can borrow the cleaner's clothes and carry buckets and some mops. I'm sure that nobody will look at us. Chapter 6. Buckets and Mops. Later that evening, my brother and I arrived at Omar's company. The big glass door at the front of the building was open. A security guard was standing outside. He was talking to another man. We walked past with our heads down. We were disguised as cleaners and carried brushes and mops, which we held near our faces. But I was afraid. This was dangerous. We could be in big trouble for this. But there was no other way to help our father. The guard didn't look at us. He was too busy talking to his friend. We were in the building. There were 2 floors. The ground floor was one long room with a bathroom and a kitchen at the end. There were a lot of desks and computers in the long room. How could Omar hide the jewellery here? Too many people. He probably had an office upstairs. But first, we had to look around here. I opened a big cupboard. Nothing interesting there. I opened a second cupboard and stopped. There was a noise. I looked at my brother. He was looking at a man, a very fat man, working at a computer in the corner of the room. I looked at my brother again. He was thinking the same as me. What are we going to do? Shall we run away? Shall we get out of the building before it's too late? I shook my head. No. It was going to be more difficult and dangerous than we thought. But we must try. Please let this man be very busy, I prayed. Just then, the phone rang, and the man began talking on the phone.
What shall I do?
Asked Ibrahim quietly. Go and bring some water from the kitchen. We'll begin washing the floor over here, I said. Ibrahim washed the floor and I cleaned the desks. While I was cleaning the desks, I looked in the drawers. Again, nothing. But what about the man's desk? I didn't want to go near him. But perhaps he wanted me to clean it. I didn't know what to do. Then the man spoke.
I'll be finished in 5 minutes, and then you can clean my desk.
A few minutes later, the fat man stood up.
You can clean it now,
he said, and walked to the kitchen. I quickly cleaned his desk. Ibrahim was watching the kitchen. There were 2 drawers in the desk. I opened the first one. Just some pens and an address book. I opened the second. There was a white box. I put my hand into the drawer and touched the box. Ibrahim coughed. I quickly pulled my hand out of the drawer and closed it. The fat man was coming back. I turned away and began cleaning another desk. Then the phone rang and the man sat down again. Ibrahim and I went into the kitchen. Remember, we don't have to clean everything. Just clean what people will see, I said. But it was hard work. My brother and I never cleaned at home.
It's going to be a long evening,
he said quietly. Half an hour later, we were finished and ready to go upstairs. We had to walk through the long room again. This time, the fat man wasn't there. I went to his desk again. Ibrahim was watching for the man. I opened the drawer and looked in the box. It was only a computer mouse. I closed the drawer and we walked towards the stairs. Where was the fat man? Then we saw him. He was at the front door, talking to the guard. We walked upstairs with our buckets and mops and pushed open the glass doors. There were doors to 4 offices and to a bathroom and a kitchen. The first and biggest office was Omar's. His name was on the door. If we don't find the jewellery here, I don't know what we'll do, I said.
Well, this is the best place to begin,
said Ibrahim. Inside the office was a black sofa, 2 comfortable chairs, and a glass table. There were 2 large green plants next to the door. Behind the sofa, there was a large cupboard with books inside. Across the room was a big desk and a black chair. Everything looked very expensive. There were windows on 2 sides of the room. You could see the beach and the sea from them. On the left was a small bathroom. We must be very careful. If you move anything, put it back in the same place, I said. I'll look behind the desk. You look in the cupboard. I opened each drawer in the desk, one by one. In the 3rd drawer, I saw a blue box. My hands were sweating. Was it a jewellery box? I took the box out of the drawer and called Ibrahim. He stood next to me as I opened the box. But no. Inside was just an expensive pen with the name of the company in gold on its side. I put it back.
Nothing in the cupboard,
said my brother. I pulled the handle of the last drawer. It didn't open. Omar has locked this. Why? What's he hiding inside?
Let's break the lock,
replied my brother. Wait a minute. If we take the jewellery with us, the police will say that we got it from our father. And if the jewellery isn't here, we'll still be in trouble. Omar will see the broken lock, and he'll know that someone was looking in his office.
So what are we going to do?
Asked Ibrahim. I don't know. But let's look in the other offices first. Perhaps it's not here. Perhaps we'll find the jewellery in another room. We opened all the other drawers and cupboards, but we found nothing interesting. We went back to Omar's office.
This is the only locked drawer in the building. It must be in here,
said Ibrahim. Of course. His office is the best place to hide the jewellery. Employees don't look in these drawers, I said. I thought for a moment, and then it came to me. We need to photograph him, opening the drawer and holding the jewellery. Then we could prove that he's the thief, I said.
Well, there's nowhere to hide in this room,
said my brother. I walked over to the window. We must help our father. We must find a way, I thought. I looked out of the window. There was a small balcony outside. "That's it," I said. "I know what I can do." I told Ibrahim my plan. I could photograph Omar from outside. I could wait on the balcony for him.
Or you could film him. He'll see the flash from a camera. A video camera is better than a camera. Uncle Ahmed has a very good video camera. We could borrow it,
he said. But I can't wait here for days and days. He must open the drawer while I'm watching from the balcony. But how can I make him open it?
We don't have time to think about that now,
said Ibrahim.
Let's go and find the door to the balcony.
We left the room and immediately we saw the door to the balcony. We unlocked it and walked along the balcony towards Omar's office. I can kneel here and hold the video camera up. From here, I can film the desk, the drawer, and the jewellery, I said.
If the jewellery is here, now let's finish this cleaning and get out of the building,
said Ibrahim. We walked down the stairs. The security guard was near the front door. Was he waiting for us? I turned my face down towards the floor. My brush and mop were in front of my face.
You took a long time tonight. Bring your old buckets and mops tomorrow.
He laughed.
Not these new ones.
If I speak, he'll know that I'm not from Pakistan, I thought. If I don't speak, he'll think that something is wrong. Then, help arrived. A car stopped in front of the building. The driver wanted to speak to the security guard. The guard walked over to the car, and we hurried away. I was happy to see my car. We got in. I looked at my watch. We weren't long. Not bad for beginners, I said, smiling.
My back hurts, and I'm tired,
said Ibrahim. It's not an easy job. Perhaps you'll be tidier at home now.
Are you my mother or my brother?
When we got home, I went to my room. I wanted to phone Samira and tell her the news.
I'm sure that you're right,
she said.
If it's the only locked drawer in the building, the jewellery must be inside it. But how can you make Omar open the drawer?
Why don't I call the police?
They won't believe you.
Perhaps I should start a fire, I joked.
Too dangerous. I know. I'll phone him. I'll tell him that I know that he is the thief. I'll tell him that I have the jewellery now. I'll ask him for $10,000, or I'll speak to the police. Of course, he'll immediately go to his office and open that drawer. He'll want to see if the jewellery is there or not. You'll be on the balcony waiting for him. If you film him, we can prove that he's the thief and not your father.
I can only go to his company at night. I can't hide on the balcony in the day. The other employees will see me.
You can clean the office again on Thursday evening. Stay there all night. I'll phone Omar on Friday morning. Nobody works on Friday.
If 2 cleaners go into the building and only 1 leaves, the security guard will look for me.
Can you climb up to the first floor from the outside of the building?
She asked. No, but I can open a small window in the bathroom on the ground floor. I can climb up to that. Of course, if someone is working late, it will be difficult to get to the first floor.
You must climb in very late at night and pray that everyone is asleep,
she said. Chapter 7. A Big Day. On Thursday morning, Samira phoned me again.
Everything's okay. The cleaners will go back to my sister's place to paint the children's house. I had to pay them more. They're worried about losing their cleaning jobs.
I think Ibrahim and I did a very good cleaning job last night, I joked. But after tonight, I don't ever want to do it again. That evening, Ibrahim and I went back to Omar's company. Before I left my house, I took some food for the next day's breakfast. I put the bread and cheese in my bucket. Ibrahim had the video camera in his bucket. This time, we went to Omar's office first. I looked at my watch. It took 4 minutes from the front door to the office. As soon as I arrived in Omar's office, I went to his desk. The drawer was still locked. "Okay, you stay here, behind the desk," I said to Ibrahim. "I'm going to try filming from the balcony." I went outside and kneeled down below the window. I held the video camera up above my head and began filming Ibrahim. The first time, I got the desk and his arm, but not his face. The next time, I got his face, but not the drawer. I filmed him 5 or 6 times before it was right. I took a pencil from one of the desks and drew a line on the wall under the window. Tomorrow morning, I'll kneel here, I thought to myself. I heard a noise. It was Ibrahim. He was knocking on the glass. Someone was coming. I ran along the balcony and through the door. Ibrahim was in front of me. He gave me a mop, and we both began cleaning the floor. I looked up carefully. It was Omar. He was going into his office. Ibrahim and I looked at each other. All this hard work for nothing. A few minutes later, Omar came out again. He had something in his hand. He went out of the glass doors and downstairs. We walked quickly to his office, to his desk. The drawer was still locked. But was it now empty? I opened the first drawer. Everything was there. I opened the second, and then the third. The blue box wasn't there in the third drawer. I wanted to laugh. "It's okay, Ibrahim. He took the pen. Perhaps he wants to give someone a present." I went back to the balcony for the video camera. We hid it in a cupboard in the kitchen. "Now for the cleaning," I said to Ibrahim.
"Do we have to do it? We're not coming back,"
he said. "We don't know what will happen tomorrow," I told him. "Perhaps Omar won't come. Perhaps his phone's not working. Something could go wrong. Perhaps we'll need to come back. So, let's do the cleaning tonight." We went downstairs. The fat man from the night before was there again. He was talking on the phone. We worked very quickly this time. When we got near the man, he stood up and told us to clean his desk. When we finished, I went into the bathroom. I opened a small window in the corner of the room. I didn't want the fat man or the guard to see the unlocked window, so I took the light bulb out of the bathroom light. I was pleased with myself. It will be difficult to see the window because now it's dark in the bathroom, I thought. We were now ready to leave. We walked to the front door. The security guard was sitting next to the door, drinking coffee and talking to a friend. He didn't look at us. We hurried down the street and round the corner. There, we got into the car and drove away. I drove to a quiet place, and Ibrahim and I changed out of our cleaning clothes and changed into our usual clothes. Hours later, we left our house again. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Everywhere was quiet. We drove near Omar's office building, stopped the car, got out, and walked around the back of the building. I put my foot in my brother's hands, and he pushed me up. Finally, I could pull myself up and through the window. I was back inside. The bathroom door was open. There was a light outside, but no noise. I decided to crawl. I came out of the bathroom on my hands and knees. The fat man wasn't at his desk, but his computer was on. I crawled some more and saw a man's foot on the floor. He was asleep on the carpet. A few minutes later, I was at the glass doors next to the stairs. The front door of the building wasn't open, and there was no light on the stairs. It was very dark. I walked upstairs slowly and carefully. I went to Omar's office first. The drawer was still locked. I came out of his room and went into another room, near Omar's office and the balcony door. There was a large desk in the office. I moved the chair back and crawled under the table. I made myself as comfortable as possible, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep. 2 hours later, I woke up. It was still dark. I heard footsteps outside and saw a light. The security guard had a torch, and he was walking around outside the office. The footsteps were coming nearer. The door of the office opened, and he shone his torch into the room. If he finds me, I'll be in a lot of trouble with the police and my parents, I thought. Big trouble. The guard shone the light around the room and then back to the desk. I didn't move. Then the light moved away again, and the door closed. I looked at my watch. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I waited for half an hour and then crawled out. My back hurt. I felt terrible. I don't want to do this again, I thought. I walked quietly towards the stairs. It was dark downstairs. I was sure that the guard was asleep again. I went to the bathroom and put cold water on my face to wake myself up. Then I went to the kitchen, drank a cup of water, and ate some bread and cheese. It was still early. I got the video camera and opened the balcony door. I sat down under the window and waited. I looked at my watch again and again. Samira is going to phone Omar in 30 minutes. She's going to phone him in 20 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 5. I was counting the minutes. Then I got a text message from Samira. It said only one word.
Okay.
Thank you, Samira, I thought. I won't forget your help. Now for the second text message. Ibrahim was waiting outside the building. He was waiting for Omar to arrive. About half an hour later, I got a text message from Ibrahim. Omar was here. Now I must do my job, I said to myself. Samira and Ibrahim have done their jobs very well, and you must do the same. I was ready. I held the video camera up and started filming. Carefully, I moved my head up. I wanted to look. The long minutes passed. But where was Omar? He wasn't at his desk. He wasn't in the room. Perhaps he was in the bathroom, but the office door was still closed. Was he still walking up the stairs? I couldn't hear any footsteps. Where was he? I knew then that we were wrong. We were wrong about the drawer. We were so sure, but so wrong. But why was Omar here? Perhaps the jewellery was in the building, but not in his office. In another place. I had to follow him. I ran back along the balcony and then stopped suddenly. There he was. Omar was standing near the door of another office. He was playing with a plant. What was he doing? How strange. He had a spoon in his hand and he was making a hole with it in the soil around the plant. What did he want to put in there? No, stupid, I said to myself. He isn't putting something in. He's taking something out. And yes, a minute or two later, he pulled out a bag. He opened it and pulled out a beautiful diamond necklace. The stolen jewellery. And I wasn't filming. I was so busy watching Omar, I forgot to film him. I quickly began filming, but it was too late. Omar was walking away, the bag in his hand. It was a disaster. What could I say to Samira and Ibrahim? And my father? How could I help him now? But wait, I thought. Perhaps I can still film him. I'm sure Omar's hands are dirty now from the soil. Perhaps he'll wash them in the bathroom in his office. I ran as fast as I could to Omar's office. I got on my knees and looked inside the room. At last, I had some good luck. The jewellery was on his desk, the necklace and the earrings. I began filming. The door to the bathroom was open, but I couldn't see Omar through it. Was he inside? I had to film him with the jewellery. If I don't film him, he will say that I put the jewellery on his desk. And then I heard a police car. It was coming nearer. I held the video camera up, but my hands were sweating. Perhaps Omar could see me. Perhaps the police were coming for me. Omar will say, that I am stealing from his company, I thought. A thief, like his father. The car was very close now. What am I going to do? How can I explain? Will the police believe me or Omar? But then, the noise went away. I smiled to myself. It was stupid to be afraid. They weren't coming for me. Not now. But the film. Was Omar in it with the jewellery? I didn't want to look again. It was too dangerous. If Omar comes out of the bathroom now, he'll see me, I thought. I went on filming. Was Omar still there? I heard a noise. I put my hand in my pocket and pulled out my phone. It was a text message from Ibrahim.
He's gone.
Did I want to look at the film? Yes and no. If Omar isn't on the film, I thought, nothing will change. People will say that our father is a thief and that we are the children of a thief. And that will be the end of all our plans. Omar will hide the jewellery in another place, or he'll sell it. We'll never find it again. But now, I had no time to look at the film. I had to get out of the building before someone found me. I left the balcony and moved to the stairs. The guard was sitting near the front door. I couldn't leave through the front door or through the bathroom window on the ground floor. But Ibrahim and I had another plan. The night before, we decided to leave a bucket and a rope in the kitchen. I put the video camera in the bucket and put the rope through the handle. I sent Ibrahim a message on his phone. I wanted him to be near the balcony. Very slowly and carefully, I lowered the bucket down from the balcony to Ibrahim. It wasn't easy. But soon, the bucket was in his hands. Now for me. I couldn't jump down. The balcony was too high. But there was another window on the stairs. I could jump from there. I went back to the stairs and climbed through the window. It was a small window and difficult to get through, but I did it. Then I jumped and hit the ground. Slowly, I stood up. My knees and hands hurt, but I could walk.
Did you see the jewellery? Did you film Omar with it?
Asked Ibrahim as he helped me to stand. I didn't answer him. I just wanted to get away. We ran around the side of the building and towards my car. I felt more comfortable when we were inside it and driving home again.
Did he open the drawer? Was the jewellery inside?
My brother asked again. It wasn't in the drawer. It was in the soil around one of the plants in another office, I said to a surprised Ibrahim. And I don't know if Omar's on the film.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's look at the film,
he said as we jumped out of the car and hurried through the gate into our house. We watched the film worriedly. There was the jewellery on the desk, but there was nobody in the room. Still nobody. Where are you, Omar? Where are you? I thought. And then we saw him. He walked towards the desk, took the jewellery in his hand and put it in his pocket. That's it! We've got him! I shouted. There could be no doubt. Omar was the thief. We turned the film off. We were so happy. We hugged each other. But honestly, Ibrahim, I don't know what to do now. We can't just walk into any police station. Omar's from an important family. Perhaps the police won't listen to us. But first, I must ring Samira and tell her the news. The phone rang only once before she answered it.
I'm so happy. I've counted the minutes, waiting for your call. This is wonderful. But I think you're right. You can't just take it to any police station. They won't believe you. Bring it to our house and show it to my father. He'll know what to do. The police will listen to him.
She was right. He was Minister of Telecommunications, an important man. But I wasn't happy about going to his house. He doesn't like me or my family anymore, I told Samira.
He wanted you as a son-in-law, but it was difficult for him. I know he'll be pleased now,
she said quietly. I smiled to myself as we drove to Samira's house. I'm going to marry her, I said to myself. Nobody's going to stop us. But first, the world must know the truth about my father. We arrived at Samira's house. The gates were open, and Samira's father was waiting for us at the front door.
Samira has told me this story. Has Omar bin Salem stolen from his parents? It's difficult to believe, but I always believed that your father was a good man, so I'm going to look at your film. Come with me.
We followed him into a large room. There was a large white sofa and some very comfortable low chairs. In front of us, there was a big television screen with a video player under it. Samira's father took our film and put it in the video player. He sat back and turned the television on. I didn't watch the film again. I was looking at his face. He moved closer to the television. Then he stopped the film. He watched it again. He stopped the film again and turned off the television. Then he spoke to us.
This is terrible and wonderful. It's wonderful for your father, but Ahmed bin Salem is also a good and honest man. After he sees this film, he'll never be the same. How did you get it?
I didn't want to tell him. He was Samira's father, but I wasn't ready to tell him everything.
It's okay, son.
He smiled.
You don't have to tell me all your secrets. I know I broke off your engagement to Samira. I'm sure I'm not your favorite person, but everyone makes mistakes, son. I was wrong.
I liked that word. Son.
I have to show this to Omar's father first.
He went on.
You don't know how terrible this is. It's going to kill him. But everyone must know the truth. Your father has great sons, and I have a wonderful daughter. Her phone's been very busy this week, more than usual. Now I know why.
He smiled.
Now, go and tell your father the good news.
This happened 4 years ago. Samira and I got married a year later. Her father gave us a beautiful big house as a wedding present. My father is still working for Sheikh Ahmed bin Salem. After he saw the film, Sheikh bin Salem put advertisements in all the newspapers in the country. The advertisements talked about father's honesty and hard work, and Sheikh bin Salem gave my father an even better job. And Omar? Nobody talks about Omar. He left the country and hasn't come back. His father closed Omar's company and sold everything in the office. Omar's 2 younger brothers are now working with their father. And the bad times? They weren't all bad. Because of them, I now know that I have the best wife in the world.